This is the NIL podcast by Sportspreneur. NIL deals, athlete business, and the business of college sports. Let's get into it. Dave, I appreciate you joining me today. Onsides. I've been involved with youth sports for a long time, whether I was coaching Little League Baseball. I got 3 kids myself. I've dealt with all the apps and all that. So we're going to get into a lot of things related to youth sports and everything around it and sports tech. Big business right now. I don't know what the numbers say. $12 billion I've heard. I've heard sports streaming for youth sports coming out. So it's big, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny is every year, well, I mean, I've only really been involved with youth sports, in earnest for a year. And I think currently the kind of well-accepted figure is around 50 billion.
Okay.
A lot of pundits are saying that the streaming market itself could be about 10 billion.
Yeah.
So it's, I think some people said that youth sports is bigger than the NFL in terms of just money moving around. I mean, it kind of makes, in the United States, right? So that makes a ton of sense.
Well, it's surface area, right? Everywhere you go, there's a game, there's a field, there's a practice, there's training, there's gyms, there's private training. And sports in and of itself, it's the one thing that brings people together at the same time.
Sure.
Whether you're watching an NFL game on television or at the stadium, or you're at the soccer fields and watching, 10-year-olds play soccer. And maybe not everyone's there, but the people that need to be there are there. And some people can't be there. Grandparents, friends, coaches, right? Recruiting, scouts. They have to gain access somehow. So, and the advertisers are like, well, where are these people? Well, they're involved with sports. And so that's how we're going to advertise.
Yeah. And kind of speaking to the evergreen nature of youth sports as you're talking about, I think one of the things that's been a really interesting one of the reasons why I think youth sports as an industry and as a market is as big and growing as it is. I listened to this podcast. It was more about the sort of healthy approach to youth sports, but this guy said that when you become a parent of a youth athlete, your favorite athlete is no longer LeBron James or Steph Curry. It's that little kid down the hall, and you will not think twice to buy like a $300 bat for him versus like $100 jersey. You know what I mean? It's just the emotions are so different with youth sports that it's a pretty emotionally charged industry, right? So it's a lot of great stuff happening right now.
Well, that's like the architecture of it. Like what is actually happening behind the scenes? Because as we grow up, we have our heroes, our teams, our favorite teams, right? We, live and die by if they win or lose and all of that. And then you start seeing like what's actually going on. And there's a business of it, right? And that's what we're talking about in many ways. And then there is the emotion side of it. There's the connection side of it, and family, right? Kids, like what's more important.
Oh, yeah.
That. So, and I guess one of the things it's important to get out of the way early, not get out of the way, but to talk about it is Onsides and what you saw as someone in the startup space, right? Out in California, you went to Cal Berkeley. So you're in the ecosystem. You're like, okay, what are we starting up today type of thing. At some point, you saw that something was broken. Like typically, right, a founder's like, hey, I'm seeing this. This is a disconnect. I would like to help this. Like, when did you see that? And when it was like, yeah, that's the lane I want to go down and push that?
Yeah, I think I probably want to change that word from broken versus underserved, right? I mean, but to the parent, it feels broken. So I agree with that sentiment in that respect. I've been in the entrepreneurial world here in the Bay Area for over 20 years. And my last company was more in mobile gaming. And I found myself at a transition point where I was just kind of sitting around thinking, okay, well, what can I do next? And at that moment, I'm on my phone swiping through 3 separate apps to update availabilities for this practice, this game, this tournament. And I'm thinking, well, gee, I think there's got to be a better way to do this, right? And so that was the moment of realization. And this is just for one child. I have a 13-year-old daughter who is an avid athlete. She plays every possible sport she can. My wife and I are at the bottleneck, right? We're like, we just physically cannot take you to all these places. So we have to cut back a little bit. But, seeing that issue with just one child, and I know family and friends who have 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 kids all playing sports at the same time. And I'm thinking, man, what is their life like? And so I started talking to them. And I said, you know what, this is doing a little bit of research in the youth sports industry. I saw that maybe in the last 10 to 12 years, there was this sort of kind of wave of technology coming through, but mostly on the B2B kind of SaaS side of things, where a lot of this software was first and foremost built to get rid of the pen and paper, right? For registrations, contact info, that sort of thing. And so a lot of these registration platforms started emerging. I think one of the big ones that I think everyone knows about is like TeamSnap, for instance, right? They were one of the first to bring technology into the pen and paper world and make things efficient. And just by nature of how big and scattered and fragmented youth sports is, all of these other platforms emerged. And I think along the way, they all did their thing very, very well. But the parent kind of was sort of the collateral damage along the ways. I kind of think about it. Yep. They are beholden to these platforms. If their kid's team is on platform X, they have to work on that, or they have to use that. They have to download it, or else they have no idea what's going on. And so I thought there was an opportunity to, you see this in all sorts of industries. I think fintech is one of the ones that I think maybe about 10, 15 years ago, Plaid came around and said, man, there are so many banks and credit cards and all this stuff.
Yep.
I think consumers have a right to manage it all in one place. So there's a lot of precedent in terms of what we're trying to do with respect to like that next wave, that intelligence layer that sits above all of these platforms that have rapidly emerged in the last decade.
So you saw the Plaid for banking, right? That's one thing. And I want to be that for youth sports parents.
Yeah. First, it's trying to connect all of these schedules and your athlete records and all that stuff that sits in so many different silos. But we're taking that a step further. I'd like to position ourselves as the all-in-one youth sports app for parents, because there are consumer destinations for everything else, like, let's say fitness or Strava, right? That kind of brings everything together and you can manage all your stuff there. In travel, there's a whole bunch of destinations that do a lot of things, airlines, hotels, cars, all that stuff. So the broader vision for Onsides, the on-ramp is the scheduling, but everything that powers that $50 billion market is driven from the schedule, right? When season starts, seasons end, what equipment you need at the beginning of the season. Do you have a bye week? Are there recruiting events coming that weekend? There's a lot of things that emerge from the schedule. So we're looking to go beyond just that piece of it.
It's needed because there's a chaotic nature to it all. And most likely your kids are playing different sports or different leagues or different levels. And, if they're in the same club, typically they're using the same, whether it's Sports Engine, like you said, or Team Snap or something else. So there's going to be some management involved from the parent standpoint, but it's chaos, right? I think we already know there's a tax when it comes to youth sports, right? There's the cost, right? There's the cost to play, there's the cost to train, there's the cost of equipment. And then there's the, like my son was in club and I think he was wearing Nike cleats, right? Soccer player, goalie. He couldn't wear Nike cleats anymore because they were an Adidas club. And you couldn't have the Under Armour bag because they're Adidas, right? So you had to change all that stuff. So it was like, oh, that was an unknown factor. And this wasn't cheap, right? This is high level soccer and there's a lot, you can't show up to your tournament wearing the wrong socks, even for practice. And there's that tax on it. And then there's the other tax on it, which is the anxiety, the cognitive load that you're like, I don't even know what I'm going to do, right? Like, okay, wait, I'm going to go to this practice. You're going to go to that practice. And then, we'll figure it out later. And, but wait, I went to the wrong place because,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So that's a tax, I feel like, in just across the board. And we need something like what you've built at Onsides to just ease the load a little bit, right?
It's really interesting that you use the term cognitive load, because my co-founder and I actually use that term pretty liberally here internally whenever we're talking about feature development. We have a phrase that we say, every feature that we build must reduce cognitive load for parents. No, we actually literally use that phrase. And obviously it's not a good marketing tagline, but internally, internally we use that. And so it has shaped a lot of our UI, a lot of the features that we build. We're not trying to build, I'll give you one quick example, is that we are working on a rideshare feature that will be coming out hopefully, maybe in the next few months. But we purposefully design this aspect of youth sports management for parents as a rideshare feature versus a carpool. And one of the things that we realized was that, there are maybe one or two really good carpool apps out there for youth sports or for parents, in general. And it's quite a lot of setup. You got to figure out the carpool parents, you got to figure out the carpool kids, and then you got to figure out pickup spot, drop off spot, time. So we interviewed maybe about 11 or 12 parents who are our early beta users. And they said 80% of the issue of getting rides is asking for it, right? And so they said, why don't we make it a little bit more like Uber or Lyft, right? Let's just make it accessible so that you're not blasting or spamming a group chat or an email thread saying, hey, can someone take my daughter? It's ease that burden. So reduce cognitive load, man. That's the core mission. And in that respect, I do want to kind of bring out the fact that we are offering Onsides as a 100% free app. you were talking about the tax, both.
Yep.
I think this is interesting because this applies to both the emotional and the monetary tax of youth sports, is that we don't believe parents need to pay more or should pay more to organize their lives. There's already so much going on in that respect for them. So we are offering the app for 100% free. We are going to monetize where they already spend. So whether it's training, equipment, travel, we're just going to take a kind of a commission fee for all of that activity that happens, as I said earlier, powered by the schedule, that component and that core product we're offering free to parents.
So is it advertising that gets placed in there, or is it like, where's the monetization coming from? Like you said, it's like product based. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the early examples that we have integrated that's a pretty slick part of the app, if I do say so myself, is that we partnered up with this great private coaching company called Athletes Untapped. It was started by a husband and wife, college athletes. They were coaches themselves. And they've built this great, I think it was over 3,000 carefully vetted private coaches across the country, across all the major sports. And I saw what they were up to. I said, you know what? The way they're going about the coaching stuff was very mindful and very well thought out, coming from coaches themselves. So I reached out. We talked about what Onsides is aiming to do. And it was such a logical integration that now in Onsides, we have a tab that's called training. And there we're going to be putting private coaching clinics and camps. Long story short, we are working on a booking fee commission rate for these private coaches, just a small percentage. But obviously the premise is that every parent's going to be on Onsides. And so I think the volume will pick up over time.
It becomes, use that word again, surface area for them to say, hey, we can get in front of more people that are looking, parents that have kids that are playing sports. And right, that's the whole thing, right? That makes a lot of sense.
And not only that, is that our AI assistant that we've built will surface private coaching at relevant moments. Like we know the schedule. We'll be like, hey, looks like you got a 2-week break. They want to get some extra reps in. How about some one-on-one coaching? And then boom, right there, location, sport. We know all of that stuff.
Okay. So that's behind the scenes. The AI is happening. This isn't some sort of LLM. This is something that you all built and have control over, I would imagine, right? There's some sort of integration. Maybe you don't control it, right? But you can speak to that.
It's kind of like a hybrid. I mean, we do rely on the LLMs. We have an LLM sort of routing system that uses all the big ones out there, but there is a lot of proprietary model context that is used to take advantage of the LLM in the most relevant and most kind of user-friendly way for our audience.
Okay. So that becomes perhaps one of the biggest benefits of it, because I don't even know what I need. The AI is going to help me and understand it based on all the information. And that's only going to get better, I would imagine, over time, because you're like, okay, wait a second. So if there's a big tournament, 3-day tournament coming this weekend, and today's Monday, Tuesday's the day to send that, and we have Wednesday available, or whatever that would look like, right? So
totally, yeah. Exactly. Like the private coaching, and one other integration that we have right now is with a company called EventPipe. They do a lot of travel and hotel booking kind of software platform. And when we have away games or tournaments, we have a little button that says book a hotel. You tap it, boom, you see all of these listings that are very, very competitively priced against things that you would see like on Expedia.
Yeah.
And it has location, and it has, some placeholder dates based on the event. But already, like we're reducing cognitive load, right? The parent doesn't have to remember, right? Yeah. Wait, where the heck is this tournament? What dates again? Like it's all pre-filled, right? So that's just kind of a microcosm of what our model context will provide the parents in their efforts to try to coordinate, as you said, like make some sense out of all this chaos out there.
Yeah, and we can pass over like, oh, it's just booking a hotel and helping you out. And that's like a massive cognitive load. I mean, it's one of my biggest ones. Like I got to, whether it's a flight or a hotel or whatever, and it's like, oh my God, I got to do this, and I got to look it up, and is this near the field? And let me get on Google Maps to like see how far of a drive I got, each game. That's a real thing, right? And I think as we're thinking about, you think about sports as just like we're going to watch the game, play the game, train, whatever. There's so much going on, and AI is involved at every level, and it's just getting started, right? And so for you to have this isn't just an app of bringing all these things together, which it certainly is. It's doing so much more like underneath it. I think you used the word piping somewhere when we were talking before, right? That's happening there. Plumbing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that's interesting, just a quick kind of follow-up on the AI side. We are being very mindful of how we use the AI, because there's this sort of sentiment out there about how you've heard the stories, right? AI can kind of hallucinate, or sometimes it really just loves to tell you what you want to hear. And that's how they get you hooked, right? Like I think ChatGPT, I have not I have yet to ask a dumb question. Right.
That's right. You're perfect,
Right.
Dave. Yeah.
What a great question, Dave. You're like the
Yeah.
smartest guy in the world, right?
Right,
And so there's a lot of things that you need to be mindful of when you use AI. And one of the things that my co-founder and I really early on, so from a development standpoint, AI has, and it still is pretty disruptive in the software engineering world right now. There's a lot of talk about how much faster it does things and how much better it's getting over time. But it brought up this whole concept of like probabilistic outcomes versus deterministic. And I know that sounds very geeky and technical, but really what it is that AI is really good at trying to assume what you want to hear based on a lot of data that you provided, which is the model context, but also what the world thinks. Like, I mean, people make fun of AI spitting out dumb answers. Like, well, you know what? It's using stuff that humans said. So you're basically calling all humans dumb, right? Right. Garbage in, garbage out is that whole sort of thinking there. So there were a lot of things about our service that we wanted to make sure did never broached into probabilistic. And what I mean by that is on the deterministic side, like scheduling data, right? The event time, the location, all that stuff, it's guardrailed in like the outcome must never be assumed, right?
Yeah.
But there are other things where, based on this info and that info, let's see, it's probable that the parent may want XYZ.
Yeah.
So we're using the AI heavily in that respect to really provide that sort of better experience overall.
Yeah. On your mentioned before, where are you located? Are you in the Bay Area still?
Yeah, I'm home officed in San Francisco.
Okay. And you were talking before about like how it's disrupting the people, engineers, right? And people in that world. Are you seeing that firsthand today? Or, I mean, we hear it, we see YouTube videos and podcasts and, we can make determinations of like what we heard, that's got to be true, right? So, but you're there, so.
It's absolutely happening. And outside of what you may read in the press about what's happening, being physically present in one of the sort of hotbeds of innovation and a lot of, software engineering, my touch points are more like first, second, third degree, but I'm feeling, hearing, seeing it personally. So there is definitely sort of a renaissance going on right now, period, of like, what does software engineering mean and how does the workforce adjust for it?
Yeah. People are perhaps wanting to go work at some of the companies that we all know about, and maybe they're not hiring or they're just laid off. Do you see more startups happening as a result, like something like an Onsides, and maybe might not be in the youth sports world, let's say, it could be in any vertical, right? Do you see that as maybe the next, is that part of the renaissance?
I think so. I just saw this crazy stat on LinkedIn today where someone posted that something like in the last year, there's been like an 84+% boost in apps submitted to the App Store.
Yeah.
And that's a direct result of all these people vibe coding stuff and just throwing it out there. So if you use that as like a small data point, I think to your point, there is this sort of, the barrier has dropped dramatically to get out a product. So I think the burden of success is going to shift to not can you get something out there, which used to be kind of like one of those big milestones, right? It's more like how good is it and how can you cut through the noise and, signal to the extremely crowded audience, products out there, like how's yours going to stand out?
Right.
So,
what are you telling, I mean, you went to Cal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of startups, you go work at a lot of different companies coming out of that university. What are you telling students, or what would you tell a student today as to what it might be today, but, coming down the pipe?
Really think through what you're trying to serve and what is your wedge, what is your competitive advantage going to be? Sometimes it's distribution. Do you have a channel locked in that could give you an unfair advantage? Really, the whole concept of unfair advantage, I believe, is going to be one of the, if not the most critical factors in determining your success, right? And that this is more of an entrepreneurial mindset in terms of getting a job and all that stuff. I'd say really think hard about the problem solving, the kind of the big picture. The emphasis is becoming more and more, what is the big picture? What are you trying to do wherever you want to work, whatever industry you're in? It's not the literal, I'm good at math, or I'm good at this, I'm good at coding. That's becoming, for better or for worse, that's becoming a lot more commoditized, if not irrelevant in a lot of the workforce these days. So can you think big picture? Can you strategically and clearly articulate that so that these tools can be used in a much more effective way, because the speed and the ease of it is just accelerating. So what else is there? It's really upstream. It's like, what's your taste? What's your vision? What's your strategy on how you think about things?
What about college? Where does that fit? I mean, you have how old's your daughter? You said 13 years old?
I know.
Yeah.
I got to think about like, hey man, like 5 years ago, I was like, yeah, she's going to go to Cal too. And all this stuff. And I'm thinking,
right.
5 years later, I'm like, wait a second. Like, and then I have another 5 years to think about what's going to happen between now and 5 years. So honestly, I hate to say, but I just don't know. I just got to keep my finger on the pulse on the industry. And, I mean, there's some industries that the adoption of all this AI stuff, for instance, is it's going to be slower. So what does that mean in terms of education and careers? I mean, that's the thing. It's just, I just got to keep tabs on it and, run with it wherever it may be at the time that I need to make a decision or she needs to make a decision.
That's a smart way to think about it. Yep, I agree with that. And we don't know, right? I hear some of the smartest people, you're like a Ray Dalio, everyone's like, what's going on with the economy? And he's like, I don't know. It's like, well, if he doesn't know, then how am I going to make a determination on this, right? It's very Warren Buffett's like, I'm not, Jimmy over here knows what he's talking about. So it's fun, right? It's fun, and it's also scary and interesting. There's a lot of debate. And then you go on YouTube and it's like, the economy's cooked, the housing market's done. And you're just like, oh my God, doom and gloom. And people those have thousands upon thousands, millions of views, right? And that's what drives a lot of narrative.
Well, yeah, that's exactly the point, is that not only are all of these sort of kind of deeper societal things happening, but it's more like, to your point, the signals out there is also kind of going through an evolution of like what gets kind of barked out there loudly from social media, for instance, right? So I know it's kind of like a lot of stuff in flux, both at the media side as well as what's actually happening under the hood.
How do you capitalize? So as Onsides grows, sports is continue to grow. You have AI, under here helping manage it. It's like seeing things that could exponentially grow in 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. How do you capitalize on when like this thing could take off, right? At any moment, this thing, and it's not like you're saying, oh, this day's going to happen. It might not be, it might not look like that day that you wake up one morning, you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many,
Yeah, things are blowing up.
Yeah. And that's great, but that's a lot to think of for a founder and running a company to know like these things it's possible, right? And and AI is capable of helping drive that, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's somewhat analogous to the social media side of going viral, right? I mean, it's like you never know when one thing will blow up. And I think it's interesting is that the problem we're trying to solve, I kind of use this analogy when I'm thinking about our distribution strategy and our growth trajectory. It's sort of like a parent, like a person kind of not drowning, that sounds a little morbid, but they're treading water, right? Yeah. And someone throws them like a lifesaver and they're just too busy trying to tread water to even get to the lifesaver, right?
Yeah.
So asking parents to use another app to manage their lives, that's a real hurdle that we need to really mindfully market and get the word out. I think Onsides is going to benefit by just awareness, right? I think when more and more parents realize and hear on the sidelines coming, parents love to gossip and talk stuff on the sidelines at halftime and complain about everything in their lives, but they also, on the flip side, will be some of the strongest advocates for a service or a product that changes their lives, right? So, but still, that's still part of going back to this recurring theme of cognitive load, right? How do you break out of that heightened, overwhelming load and tell them, no, really, this is going to make your life better? It's almost like, one of the messaging themes that we're exploring is this whole concept of, I think there's that phrase that says like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, right? So, hey, invest just a few minutes, set this thing up. We make it super easy, by the way. You just log in with your username password for Team Snap, Sports Engine, League apps, just one time, and then we pull in all the updates automatically. So it's really just kind of this, theoretically, I think it should be just a few minutes just to set up a few accounts, and then we take care of the rest. So really getting that message out there is going to be one of the things that we're going to be focused on.
Yeah, you need that team parent and just puts it out in the email or the message, or like you said, on the sidelines at halftime or after the game, you're like, you got to download this. This is life-saving. Yeah.
Someone's finally doing it.
Yeah, exactly. What's it been like for you? And you got a very positive mindset. I enjoy talking to you about this because I love sports, right? I love all the stuff that goes on with it, but I'm also a realist and understanding all the negative stuff that goes on with it. And, it's been the commercialization of youth sports. Like, it's wild. We talk to our parents or grandparents, they'd be like, what is going on here? Like, we used to drop you off at practice, you would go practice, we'd pick you up and we would go home and you would eat dinner, right? And you'd all sit at the table together.
Yeah.
And that's it. And there was no training, there's none of this stuff. And you get whatever cleats we get you is what you're going to wear, or maybe you wear sneakers today. I don't know.
The hand-me-downs from like your older cousin from like 10 years ago. Yeah.
Of course. Like, I want the new ones. Like, yeah, that's not happening. Different colors. No, they're all black, right?
Yep.
And now, I mean, some of these sports it's like you said, a $300 bat. Like, that's a real thing, right? Glove. Like, the glove's got to be the right glove. And what base are you playing? And then you kind of move up and there's expectation. I mean, my daughter showed up, she's younger, and she showed up to a basketball tryout. And she wasn't like working to like make a team. She's like, I like basketball, I want to show up to basketball. And then come to find out, you get there and they all had trainers. They all had worked with the coach or the assistant coach and all this stuff. Yeah. And they had 3 training. On the 3rd day, we didn't know it was like this serious. Like, she just wanted to play basketball.
Sure.
Undersized, right? They took 6 of the kids out of practice, took them to a room and said, go grab your stuff. We'll call your parents and tell them to come pick you up. I was like, oh my gosh, this is next level. This is at a school. And So again, that's an extreme example, right? And so youth sports this happens. And I've heard some stories from other people who are like, wow. And, there's also a teaching lesson there. Hey, if you want to make the team, you have to practice. You got to show up, you got your shots up, you got to get in shape, whatever. But there was a lot there of like, a lot of people were playing the game. Like, the assistant coach was my private trainer and whatever. Anyway. And then you're sitting on, so there's that, and then you're sitting on the sidelines and you're watching the game, and it is what it is, right? Like, I haven't been to a youth sports game where there wasn't some, I don't know what the right word is, but there wasn't like yapping going on. It wasn't just talking about the fun stuff on the sidelines. It was about, it could have been to the coach, it could have been to the ref, it could have been to other players. I've seen games called because they just get out of hand. My son does I-9 sports. He's in college and he works with I-9 sports, and he's seen coaches and they're just helping. They love sports. And parents are yelling, and it's like 7 years old. He's traveling. I'm like, the kid's never dribbled before, right? He doesn't know how to dribble, and people are getting upset. So there's a lot of positive, but there's also that. What's your personal experience with it? Like, where does that take you? I mean, you're right in the heart of this whole thing with youth sports and the business side of it.
So a couple of things there. You mentioned I-9. I do really love what I-9's trying to do, and I think there is a massive opportunity to really bring out the recreational side of youth sports. I think it's not like 100%, but most of what you see in terms of the intensity, maybe one could say the unhealthy intensity around, especially driven by the parents on youth sports, it does sort of, there is that spectrum, right? Of like my kid's going to get into college and play like D1 sports, right? And then you've got the ones that are like, I'm just glad he's not sitting at home on his Nintendo, right?
Right.
There's a wide spectrum of mentalities from the parents. And I do love that I-9 is not, they're addressing the rec side of it, right? Where let's just get the kids active. It's healthy for them. It's great mentally and physically. And, coincidentally, 2 weeks ago, I was at the summit. There's a great youth sports publication called Buying Sandlot. Just a quick aside, the founder of Buying Sandlot is actually an advisor of ours because he was really enamored with what we were doing. And he said, man, I want to be part of it because it's such a great idea. He just launched held his inaugural summit in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago. Everyone was there in youth sports, big names, startups. Myself, I was on a panel that was talking about startups. But there was one panel about the professionalization of youth sports and the counterpoint to that. And I think the VP of marketing from I-9 was up on stage talking about how there's this massive opportunity to make it better for the kids who just want to play. And support the parents too, right? I think the parents can get swept up in all of this fervor of like, do I have the best equipment? Do I have the best trainers? It's like, am I going to all the recruiting events? Should I be going to the recruiting? There's a lot of education that needs to come into it, but a lot of it is also just the enablement of it. And but the unfortunate reality is that I think what you were talking about, like the parent intensity, there's always a section in the Buying Sandlot newsletter of like parents misbehaving or something like that. And it's not to be tongue in cheek. It's more to just call it out. It's like, come on, dude. Like, come on, parents. Let's remember what we're doing here with respect to youth sports. Why are we doing it? And I am encouraged, though, that on any panel, whether it talks about the recruiting side, the recreational side, the international expansion side, whatever the topic may be, there does seem to be a going back to like, hey, guys, like, but at the end of the day, we're doing this for the kids, right? And I think for my side, I want Onsides to be able to help parents, here you go, reduce that cognitive load so that they can be less stressed and be less overwhelmed and focus on the important stuff, right? So yeah, it's just, again, going back to one of the things we said, it's such an emotionally charged industry. I think there's so much vested in from the parents, from the families. And luckily, I think there's more of this movement around, there's these great podcasts talking about being the healthy sports parent, right? Be supportive. And even physical stuff like overuse injuries. And there's a lot of awareness with youth sports because it is such an intense industry.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, too many games. We had Gordon Hayward. He played in the NBA for all those years, and he talks about it today, and he talks about how it's too many games. He's like, we're traveling 6 hours to play 6 games and whatever it might be. And he's like, we could have stayed here. And he's just like, he played all, like your daughter. I played every sport. When it was baseball season, I played baseball. When it was basketball, I played basketball, and maybe, I switch it up this year. I want to do golf. I don't know. Like, you could just
go down the list.
You just go down the list, and what piques your curiosity at some point? Yeah, like, okay, wait a second, we might have something here. You like a lot of talent, and you had a lot of love and joy for this game. So let's take that to another level. And I think what you're saying too is like, you have a positive sum mindset with it, and just a little bit of like pour love into something, even though you can't fix it. Because I can go to a game later today, and we can see they're not getting the message. They're just not getting it, and that's okay, right? Because that's just the way it is. It's not going to be like, oh, everyone's happy-go-lucky. We're all at the games and everyone's good about it. No, it's just not going to be that way. But a little bit of diffusing the situation is good. Like there was we talked to someone, he runs a lacrosse program, like does very well, creates lacrosse balls and all this stuff, and coaches. And they have a sit down with the parents. He's like, you will not talk to the refs. You will not yell at the coaches. You will not talk about playing time. Like, that's it. If you're out, you're out. I don't care if you're the best player on the team. Your kid will not play here, and you will not be you'll be asked to not come back. And I mean, it just is what it is, right? Because we're trying to create this environment where the kid can go out there and play, and we don't know. And I mean, there's a whole thing going on right now, and we talk about NIL, where high school athletes aren't even being recruited anymore because the transfer portal exists. So why would I judge it on a 17, 18-year-old when I can wait till you're 20? Now I see that you've actually matured. You're even better. So kids are like, or parents are like, they're not even calling anymore. And that could change tomorrow if the law or the rule changed. But right now, like, so you had this whole plan. We're going to go play professional hockey. We're going to be the next Connor McDavid, and it's not going to happen, right? Yeah. So it's something that's out there, right? And, it's like you mentioned I-9, the last thing, and you could take any path you want with it. And I won't name the people. There's a coach and there's a former basketball player, both who would be instantly recognizable. Like, oh, wow. The coach's kid goes to I-9, and the nephew of the basketball player is one of the best ever. His nephew is playing at I-9, right? Like, these people know what they're doing. They understand coaching, they understand playing, they know what it takes to make it to the next level. And they're sending them not to a lesser place, just to a place because they want to play. And maybe it's an addition, right? Maybe it's in addition to the club. I have no idea, but they are. They just want to be out in the field, on the court, whatever it might be. So I said a lot there, like wherever that takes you.
I would like to think, in my ever sort of optimistic mindset about whatever I do, that I think the right messaging, I'm hearing a little bit more of the right way to go about these sports than not. And what I mean by that is like hearing these anecdotes from whomever I talk to, both in the youth sports industry, but also outside of it, where I hear this, oh, there was this like hard no tolerance rule at this game and it was great. Like the kids just played their hearts out. So I'm starting to hear more and more of that kind of mentality, like what you were saying. Get them playing. I mean, man, that should be the end goal, right? Is get them playing. And I'm starting to hear more of that sort of emphasis on that element of it. So I am encouraged by that. I think this is one of those things where amplified messaging through channels like social media can have a very positive impact. And I hope, and as I said, I'm always optimistic that at the end of the day, people will, there's enough sort of awareness now. I think maybe we've hit a tipping point of like, that the good stuff needs to come out more and the bad stuff becomes more and more sort of hopefully the exception to the rule more than anything else.
Yeah, we can't expect perfection, right? That's just like people will complain about self-driving cars. Like, well, yeah, what happens when the self-driving car does this? And I'm like, well, have you been on the road lately? Right? Like, you see what like humans are doing on the road. Like, it's going to be better. I can't promise perfection. Nothing's going to be 100% all this, right? There's going to be problems with it. And I think that's something that we all need to tell ourselves. So if we see something happening, we're not just like, and I could be the first person to be like, I'm quick to judge, like, oh my God, I can't believe that person's saying that thing. I don't know what they're going through. Like, I don't know what's happening, right?
Yeah,
like there's a lot to that. And yeah, I mean, sports is this ticket all of a sudden, and the ticket would be a scholarship before. And then maybe you go pro, like that's really difficult, as we all know. But now the ticket is, there's this money waiting for you in college, and now it's coming into high school, and we don't know where that's going to go next. And this isn't like, this is real money. And sometimes it's life-changing money, and other times it's like, hey, this money got us through the month. Like, that's important.
Yeah. I don't know where all of this NIL stuff is going to go, right?
Yeah.
It just seems to be moving downstream every month you read the headlines.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that, I mean, there's going to be a natural sort of reckoning. Hopefully it won't be too violent, but
right. Yeah.
but it's got to normalize at some level, that whether it's legislation, whether it's this kind of collective mindset from the big players in the space, whether it's a professional athlete or a consortium of them kind of speaking up about and doing something about it. I mean, it can't go all the way down to like the 6U, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, my 6U son can't wear certain cleats because his agent says that he's not allowed to. Like, I would like to hope that day will never come, but I think there'll be natural balancing forces along the way that should remind folks of like what it's all about, and kind of call out the sort of ridiculousness of some of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about before, like the future of college. So these universities are, I know Cal, I think, actually had a big layoff, if I'm not mistaken, when their sports program, because in their marketing team. Right. And Oregon's, I think, came out and enrollment's down or something like that. Their applications are down. Right. And so like a lot of universities across the country, they have record numbers, and they, they said, how many students are going to come to our school? And it's like, well, 7,500 is what comes. And then all of a sudden 9,000 show up in the first day. You're like, wait a second, we let in too many kids. So all of a sudden we have to change it. So now you have these flagship universities, and they are now not allowing their students in state. And so then they get upset, and it gets political and all that. Then on top of it, they have a football program or a basketball program or whatever program, and they're going to say, we need, and the money's coming from different budgets, I get it, but we need so much money feeding this. And then there's other universities that, like, which is what they're saying, like, they can't keep up. Like, I think Louisville had a manifesto, right? And they said, this is going to be the end of it. Like, we will not be able to carry on like this. And so they may be just saying the quiet part out loud that no one else is willing to say. There's other universities that are super stressed by it. So it's not just, it's like the school, the applications, the academic side of it, and then you add the sports side of it. And then on the back, the thing that feeds all this is the youth sports, right? And all that stuff goes on to it. So, and then, I don't think we're going to solve it on this podcast, that's for sure. But
oh, really? Okay. I can scratch that off my to-do list for today. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're working on it, and it's a fascinating conversation to talk to someone like yourself that's like, you're literally in the middle of it, and it's affecting families on a day-to-day basis. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. And we're just trying to make it a positive effect, right?
Right.
Like, things are going to happen. Let's just make it positive. So that's the ultimate goal here.
Yeah. And I guess one thing I want to ask you too is, I reached out and we have this conversation. You're on a podcast. I mean, you've been around, you've talked about marketing and like getting the message out there. Like, you talked about a newsletter earlier with, I want to get the name right. You could say Sandlot.
Buying Sandlot.
Sandlot, right? Like, and going to an event and being on a panel, like getting the message out. It's so different than it was probably for when you were doing startup early on 20 years ago, right? I mean, how podcast comes to be.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember when podcasts first came out, right? I was like, hey, what's the concept? It took me a while to kind of, okay, so it's like a radio interview, but you can download it. And, you know what I mean? Like it was something pretty, it was hard for me to kind of wrap my head around it. But I think case in point here is that the way media is consumed by people, it's interesting is that my wife is the one who is really into podcasts, right? And she finds it such a nice way to get up to speed, listen to content she wants, whether it's informative or entertainment. And while she's, waiting for, coincidentally, my daughter to finish up soccer practice. And
of course. Yeah.
She's sitting in the parking lot, right? I do it too. But I don't know, it just feels like suddenly the way that media is consumed and produced, right, to obviously be consumed, has changed really like dramatically over the last, say, like probably 4 to 5 years. And I think one of the manifestations of that is connecting with, buying Sandlot. It was over LinkedIn, right? Which is the professional social network, and the signaling that they do with their algorithms kind of bubbled up that we should connect. And one thing led to another, and suddenly he's an advisor and I'm speaking on a panel, and there's this great sort of awareness that we're trying to build out there. So yeah, that does change a lot of how businesses get launched, how they thrive. Where do you focus your efforts on from a go-to-market strategy? A lot of things, you just got to be on top of it. And you can't predict and you can't be an expert because sometimes things are moving so fast that if anyone says they're an expert in something, you got to kind of call them out on it. It's like, nah, this thing just kind of took off 6 months ago. You can't be an expert.
Yes, right. It's impossible.
But sorry, I'm going to call BS on that.
Right.
But the fact remains that if you've got a very kind of strategic mindset, going back to like, what do you tell people coming out of college these days? It's like, think big picture, try to proactively think about what's next and how can you use these rapidly emerging tools that are getting faster to provide value to wherever you end up, working or whether you're starting something yourself.
Yeah, I get it. It's like the media side of it, the leverage that you get from it, where you're sharing this message and your thoughts and opinions, and it's not all about Onsides, right? We just sit here and like, it's not an infomercial, talk about all the details, right? Yeah. It's a conversation, and someone gets like, I really like what Dave has to say, and that matters to me, and that's interesting. I want to take a look at this, or someone else. Then there's deal flow, right? Like you just said, like someone reaches out, you're like, what? Where did this person come from? And that person might not even remember where it came from. I just tell, like, it's just, and that with AI synthesizing all this information like instantly, it's looking at the transcript, it's looking at this, it's looking at that. It's like, okay, well, this, he's out here talking about this, that, and the other, and college, and like, this is wild, and it's like, you maybe want to check out this app, or you want to feature him on your panel for the future sports tech convention that's coming up in Los Angeles in 6 months or so. I don't know. But all that stuff works together. Yeah.
No, I think you bring up a great point about the AI side, is that if you really kind of take a step back and think about what did social media do, right? It amplified signals and it democratized opinions, right? Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. But I think there's this next wave of AI that's actually, in my sort of very simplistic point of view, I think AI is going to signal boost in a way that is not unlike what social media did, 15, 20 years ago. As you said, AI is scraping all this stuff. It's ingesting it. It's learning, right? And you may have seen there's waves of like how Google search is no longer going to be a channel for a lot of advertising. It's going to be, can you just shove out enough content where the LLMs are learning, and make sure that it suggests your business and your service when people ask. So already the paradigm has shifted in terms of the distribution strategy for all of this stuff. And I think opinions and just content like this it's just part of that whole machine.
Yeah. This is a lot of truth, right? It's just a conversation. Talking, right? And people are looking for that. So like craving, like, what's something real? Like, you might not be telling a true story, but it's like you are. But like, people are seeking that out of conversation. And like you said before, BS, like people can, oh, no, I don't buy what Eric's saying, right? Like Eric's talking, and that's fine. And they can make that determination. And I think a long form conversation allows for that to be real, as opposed to like, we're going to cut it up, and which you can do that too, right? There's narrative style. There's all sorts of fun and creative things that you can do with it all. And I think we want that for our kids as well. Like, I think about, the other thing that's related to youth sports is kids. And there's a lot of drive time, travel time, practice time, downtime at practice, or injury time, or whatever. And what do? We go to our phones, we go to our devices and all this stuff. And someone who's been in this space, like, you understand how to bring an audience in and like, hey, here's some attention, and give it to my app, give it to my service. Like, and you're in the area, you're at Silicon Valley. Like, you have friends that like build these things probably, or know enough. Like, more than like the average person would know about this stuff. Like, and this isn't to talk about family, but like, what is your daughter on these devices? Is she on social media? Like, what does that look like in your house?
So early on in my career, I worked at a social networking company. We're talking pre-Facebook days, right? And because of that, I've always maintained a very close eye on social media and all of its evolution along the way. And so we are very, very, very careful about social media in our household. My 13-year-old daughter, she's prime age to be swept up in all that.
Yep.
What I'm finding interesting, though, and this is the part that's fascinating. So, I was actually a neurobiology major at Cal. So it's that's kind of that skirts the line of physiology and psychology. So psychology has always been something that's fascinated me, and it's helped me in my marketing efforts and product development and stuff like that, right? It's all the psychology of user experience and user interface. But what I find fascinating is that even though we have put some hard restrictions in many places around social media, kids find ways to replicate that behavior somewhere else.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is she has like a group chat with all of her school friends, but you can share photos on group chats, right? And people can comment on them. People can put a thumbs up on those photos, right? So we are very mindful. We do check like every once in a while, like what's going on in these chats. But the thing that fascinates me is that all the behavior that's getting uber amplified on these platforms like Instagram and whatever, and TikTok especially, it happens. It's almost like you have to talk to the reasoning behind the behavior versus cutting off the actual medium that it's being manifested on, right? So, and not to get too philosophical about it, but I think a ton can be done to manage it by regulating what your child is exposed to at what age. But it's being here. I mean, look, Facebook is like the headquarters is like a 25-minute drive for me, right? So I pass it all the time when I'm heading to like soccer games and stuff. So we are kind of in the sort of hub of it. And I was fortunate to be one of the early folks in the space. So I have kind of a different lens on how that affects our family life.
Yeah, that's an important lens. That's why I ask. And like when you're there, it's like, get out and talk to people. Like someone's there, they're living there right now. Like, what do they think? And they're involved in that ecosystem on a day-to-day basis. It's like, let's just listen.
Yeah. I mean, perspectives.
Yeah. Well, you sit there and the kids can all get to the game earlier. It's like, oh, we got here 30 minutes earlier than we're supposed to. Like, what do we do? It's like, well, let's get on our phones or not. Or, then they have some leaders on the team and like, we're going to start warming up. We're going to start stretching. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or your kid's not allowed to be on it, right? I've seen this before. Like a kid's not allowed to be on it, but when they go to school, what do? They have their friends' phones. And I know they've taken phones away at a lot of schools, but these, like you said, these kids are smart. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Smart in some ways, not so much in others, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. You don't necessarily hope to outsmart them, but just at least like keep up, right? And just talk through the deeper motivations behind the behavior. I think that's all you can really do, because the media will change of how the youth is going to interact with each other. How they do it is going to change. Every year, it's going to change. So what can you do? Let's talk through the core reasoning behind it. I think that's probably the best way to go about it.
Well, there's a whole new generation of people having kids, and they're just coming off and listening and watching, right? You see like the Anxious Generation book by Jonathan Haidt comes out, or like everyone's aware of this. So it's in the news all the time. And now you have these new parents with these kids. It's like, well, they're going to raise them differently. It's going to go probably in a completely other direction. So how do you manage that? It's going to be fascinating. I don't know. Like you said, I don't think anyone knows.
No one knows. It's just getting faster, and you just got to do your best to keep up.
Yeah.
So
Onsides, how do people learn about it? Can they sign up for it? Doesn't have to be through the club, right? Like, what does that look like?
It's all available in the App Store, so both on iPhones and Android devices. If you just type in Onsides in the App Store, you can see the app. Although I do have to mention, this is something that I didn't really think about. When you search on the App Store on iPhone for Onsides, the first result is this app called Obsidian, because it thinks I misspelled Obsidian. So you actually have to say, did you mean Onsides? I think it's part of because we're actually a relatively new app. We just launched publicly about 3-4 weeks ago. So over time, the system will learn. But
it'll fix itself. Yeah.
But you can also learn more about it. We have a website, getonsides.com. You can read more about what the product is, and there's the download links to the app in the Play stores. So it's available for everyone. And as I said, it's 100% free.
Yeah. And connecting with you, where is the best place to reach you at?
Probably LinkedIn. I have not focused much on my own personal presence on the socials, as people say. It's a work in progress there, but LinkedIn is probably the best way to.
And they can find you through Onsides anyway. And then you're obviously at soccer games. The app's called Onsides. Have you figured out what Onsides is in soccer yet? Because I'm still trying to figure that out, right?
Well, yeah, that was less about what it is. It's just you go to any youth soccer game and inevitably you hear someone's like, get Onsides, right? Right. And so I'm like, hey, that's great. Let's get the .com, right? It's a little bit of a play on that.
I love that. How long before you started it, I'm just curious, before you started Onsides, did you have actually the domain?
Oh, I was lucky. Get Onsides was available when I first kind of conceived of the name and the concept about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So maybe I got lucky, but yeah, it was available.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Dave, I appreciate it. This is fascinating. Like I said, it's a topic I can go on and on about. Hopefully we can stay in touch. I definitely want to continue to follow what's going on here. I'm sure we'll continue to run in some circles, but thank you again for coming on, spending. If there's anything else I missed, please feel free to drop that in here, but thank you again.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the outreach. And I'm really excited, and it's always fun to talk about this stuff, both the Onsides, but also the youth sports craziness with folks. So I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, you're welcome. This has been a Sports E Media production.